Close your eyes for a moment and feel this truth. What you are seeking is not ahead of you, it is behind you, not in time, but in consciousness. Most people are trying, forcing, chasing, hoping, waiting for something to happen. They live in the state of it will come someday, and that someday never arrives because they never leave that state. But there is another way, a higher way. Instead of hoping it will happen, remember when it already did. Yes, remember back as if it has already happened. Feel it like a memory, not imagination, but remembrance. Stop chasing what you desire as if it lives somewhere outside of you, because the very act of chasing keeps it distant. The moment you begin to pursue something, you silently affirm that it is not yours yet, that it exists somewhere ahead, separate from who you are now. And as long as you remain in that state, life faithfully reflects it back to you. More wanting, more waiting, more distance. But there is a quiet shift available to you, a simple yet powerful turning point. Instead of reaching forward, begin to look back, not into your past, but into a moment that feels like it has already happened. This is where everything changes. Imagine, just for a moment, that what you desire is no longer a possibility, but a memory, not something you are hoping for, but something you have already experienced. You are not trying to believe it, you are remembering it. There is a difference. When you remember something, there is no effort involved. You don't argue with it, you don't question it, you don't wonder if it will happen. It carries a natural sense of certainty, a calmness that needs no validation. This is the state you must enter, not forcefully, not with strain, but gently, as if you are recalling a beautiful moment that has already unfolded in your life. Feel what that does to your body and mind. The tension dissolves, the urgency fades, the need to control every detail disappears. In its place comes a quiet confidence, a stillness, a sense of it is done. And from this state, you begin to move differently. You think differently. You react differently. Without even trying, you align yourself with the version of you who already has what you once desired. This is not about pretending or escaping reality. It is about selecting the reality you choose to experience by embodying it internally first. Most people delay their fulfillment because they are waiting for proof before they allow themselves to feel complete. They say, when it happens, then I will feel happy, secure, fulfilled. But this only keeps them trapped in a cycle of lack. You must reverse this pattern. You must feel the fulfillment first, without evidence, without permission from the outside world. When you do this, you are no longer reacting to life, you are directing it. You are no longer a spectator, you are the source. So instead of waking up each day wondering when things will change, begin your day from the quiet knowing that they already have. Walk as if it has happened. Speak from the place where it is done. Carry yourself with the ease of someone who no longer needs to chase anything because there is nothing left to chase. It is already yours, not because the world has shown it yet, but because you have accepted it within. And as you continue in this state, something remarkable begins to unfold. Life starts to reorganize itself in ways you cannot predict. Opportunities appear, circumstances shift, people respond differently. It feels almost effortless, as though the world is catching up to something you have already experienced internally. This is not coincidence, it is reflection. The outer world is mirroring the inner assumption you have chosen to live by. So let go of the struggle. Release the need to force outcomes or constantly check for results. Instead, return again and again to that inner memory. Revisit it, feel it, live in it. Let it become so natural to you that it feels strange to think of your desire as something that has not yet happened. This is the end of chasing. This is the beginning of remembering. And in that remembrance, you will find that everything you once sought has been yours all along, live from the end, not toward it, because everything in your outer world is simply a reflection of where you are living from within. Most people spend their lives moving toward their desires, thinking in terms of distance and time, saying, "It will happen, I'm getting there," or "one day it will be mine." But in doing so, they unknowingly remain in a state of not having. The mind accepts this as truth and continues to produce experiences that match that assumption. So the journey never seems to end, and fulfillment always feels just out of reach. The real shift happens when you stop moving toward your desire and instead begin living from the place where it is already fulfilled. To live from the end means you mentally and emotionally occupy the state of already having what you want. You are not waiting for external confirmation, and you are not measuring progress. You are stepping into the version of yourself for whom the desire is no longer a goal, but a fact. Think about how you feel when something has already happened in your life. There is no urgency, no questioning, no grasping. There is a natural ease, a quiet certainty, and a sense of completion. This is the feeling you must claim even before you see any evidence of it in your physical world. When you shift from "it will happen" to "already happened," you are moving out of time and into creation. "It will happen" places your desire in the future, keeping it separate from you. But "already happened" collapses that distance. It brings the experience into the present moment where all creation actually occurs. Your inner world does not operate on the same rules as the outer world. It responds to feeling, to assumption, to what you accept as true now. So when you consistently dwell in the state of fulfillment, your outer reality begins to mirror that inner conviction. This does not require force or constant effort. In fact, the more you try to force it, the more you return to the state of trying, which again implies you do not yet have it. Instead, this is about gentle acceptance. It is about allowing yourself to feel the reality of your desire as if it is already a lived experience. You might imagine a simple moment that would naturally occur after your desire has been fulfilled, a conversation, a feeling of relief, a quiet moment of gratitude, and then return to that moment again and again until it feels familiar, almost like a memory. As you persist in this state, you will notice subtle changes within yourself. Your reactions will shift. Things that once triggered doubt or fear will lose their power. You will begin to carry yourself differently, not because you are trying to impress anyone, but because you are no longer identifying as someone who lacks. You are identifying as someone who already is. And this inner identification is what shapes your external world. It is important to understand that living from the end is not about denying your current reality or pretending that circumstances do not exist. It is about choosing which reality you give your attention and emotional energy to. The outer world may still show signs of the old state for a while, but if you remain faithful to the end, those signs will eventually fade. What replaces them will be a reflection of the new state you have chosen to occupy. So instead of asking, "How will this happen?" or "When will it come?" return to the end. Feel it as done. Accept it as your reality now. Let that feeling guide your thoughts, your actions, and your expectations. Over time, it will become your natural state, and you will no longer feel like you are waiting for anything. You will feel complete, whole, and certain. And from that place, Life begins to move in ways that feel almost effortless. Doors open, paths clear, and what once seemed distant becomes part of your everyday experience. Not because you chased it, but because you lived from it. Feeling is the secret because it is the one element that transforms a simple thought into a lived reality. You can repeat words endlessly, visualize scenes over and over, or set countless intentions, but without the right feeling, they remain hollow. It is not the image itself that creates change, it is the emotion that gives it life. When you truly experience your desire with feeling, you move beyond imagination and step into embodiment. You are no longer hoping for something to occur. You are internally living in the state where it has already happened. And this feeling does not come with tension or effort. It comes with a calm certainty, a quiet knowing that needs no validation. Think about how a real memory feels. When you recall something that has already happened, you do not struggle to believe it. You do not force yourself to accept it. There is a natural ease, a sense of familiarity, a subtle emotional imprint that tells you, this is real, this is mine. That is the exact quality of feeling you must bring to your desire. Not excitement mixed with doubt, not desperation filled with urgency, but a steady, grounded sense of completion. It is the difference between trying to convince yourself of something and simply knowing it to be true. Most people misunderstand this and approach their desires with effort. They try too hard to visualize perfectly, to feel intensely, to make something happen. But effort often signals that you are still aware of the absence. It creates resistance because underneath the effort is the belief that you need to do more in order to receive. True feeling, on the other hand, is effortless. It is soft, natural, and unforced. It arises when you allow yourself to relax into the idea that what you want is already yours. To experience your desire like a real memory, you must shift your focus from trying to get something to simply being someone who has already received it. Imagine a small, specific moment that would naturally occur after your desire is fulfilled. It could be a quiet conversation, a feeling of relief, or even a simple acknowledgement within yourself that it's done. Then, instead of observing that moment from a distance, step into it fully. See what you would see, hear what you would hear, and most importantly, feel what you would feel. Let that feeling settle into you without rushing, without forcing it to be intense. Even the slightest sense of reality is enough. As you return to this inner experience again and again, it begins to take on the quality of a memory. It becomes familiar. It feels less like something you are creating and more like something you are recalling. This is when the shift truly happens. You are no longer divided between wanting and having. You are aligned with the version of yourself who already possesses what you once desired. And from this alignment, your outer world begins to respond. The calm certainty you cultivate in this process is essential. It is what stabilizes your state and prevents you from falling back into doubt. When you feel certain, you do not constantly check for results or question whether it is working. You trust the process because, to you, it is already complete. This trust is not blind faith, it is a natural consequence of the feeling you have accepted as real. Over time, this inner state becomes your dominant reality. You carry it with you throughout your day, not as something you are trying to maintain, but as something that simply is. And as it becomes more natural, the outer world begins to mirror it in ways that feel almost effortless. Situations align, opportunities arise, and what once felt distant becomes part of your lived experience. So let go of the need to force anything. Release the idea that you must struggle to create your reality. Instead, return to the feeling softly, gently, and consistently. Experience your desire as if it were a real memory and allow that calm certainty to guide you. Because in the end, it is not what you think or say that creates change, but what you feel to be true within yourself. Assumption creates reality because whatever you accept as true within yourself becomes the blueprint your outer world follows. Life is not responding to your wishes, your words, or even your occasional efforts. It is responding to your deepest assumptions. These are the quiet beliefs you carry, often unnoticed, that define what you believe is possible for you, what you think you deserve, and what you expect to experience. Whether you are aware of them or not, these assumptions are constantly shaping your reality, projecting themselves outward into the circumstances, people, and events that make up your life. Most people try to change their lives by focusing on external actions. They work harder, plan more, and search for the right opportunities, believing that something outside of them needs to shift first. But this approach often leads to frustration because it ignores the true source of creation. The outer world is not the cause, it is the effect. It is a mirror reflecting the internal state you consistently occupy. If you assume struggle, you will encounter situations that reinforce struggle. If you assume lack, you will see evidence of lack everywhere. Not because the world is against you, but because it is faithfully echoing what you have accepted as true within. To understand this deeply, you must recognize that an assumption is not just a thought you think once or twice. It is a state of being. It is something you return to repeatedly until it feels natural, until it becomes your default way of seeing yourself and your life. And once something feels natural, it begins to express itself effortlessly. You no longer need to force it or question it, it simply unfolds. This is why changing your assumptions is so powerful. When you change what feels true to you internally, you change the foundation upon which your entire reality is built. This does not mean denying your current circumstances or pretending that they do not exist. It means choosing not to give them the final authority. Instead of letting the outer world define your inner state, you reverse the process. You decide what is true within, independent of what you currently see, and you remain faithful to that decision. At first, this may feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because it goes against the habit of reacting to appearances. But with persistence, the new assumption begins to feel more real than the old one. When you accept something as true internally, it carries a certain feeling with it, a sense of certainty, a quiet conviction. You do not need to constantly remind yourself or seek reassurance because it already feels established. This is the state you want to cultivate. For example, if you assume that you are successful, you begin to think, feel, and act from that identity. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to become successful. You see yourself as someone who already is. And from that place, your choices, your reactions, and even your opportunities begin to align with that assumption. The outer world has no choice but to reflect this shift, though it may not happen instantly. There can be a delay, a period where old patterns still appear. But if you remain consistent in your inner acceptance, those patterns will eventually fade. They are only sustained by the assumptions that created them. Once those assumptions change, the old reality loses its foundation. This is why it is so important to become aware of what you are accepting as true on a daily basis. Are you assuming that things are difficult, that opportunities are limited, that success is far away? Or are you choosing to assume that everything is working in your favor, that what you desire is already yours, that life is aligning perfectly for you? The choice may seem simple, but its impact is profound. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. You are the one defining them through your inner acceptance. Every moment is an opportunity to choose again, to align yourself with the reality you prefer. And as you continue to do so, what once felt like imagination becomes your lived experience. So take responsibility for your assumptions. Guard them carefully. Nurture the ones that serve you and release the ones that limit you. Because in the end, what you accept as true within yourself will always, without exception, find its way into your outer world. Fulfillment over desire is the shift that changes everything, because as long as you remain in the state of wanting, you continue to affirm that what you seek is not yet yours. Desire in itself is not the problem, it is the doorway. But most people stay at the doorway, endlessly wanting, wishing, and longing, never stepping into the experience of already having. They identify with the feeling of lack so deeply that it becomes their normal state, and life simply reflects that back to them in different forms. To transform your reality, you must be willing to leave the state of desire behind and enter the state of fulfillment, where what you once wanted is now accepted as yours. Wanting carries a certain energy with it. It feels incomplete, restless, and often urgent. It looks toward the future and says, I will be happy when this happens, or I will feel complete once I have this. But this creates a constant gap between where you are and where you think you need to be. That gap is what keeps your desire out of reach. The more you focus on wanting, the more you reinforce the idea that you do not have. And so, even if you take action or make progress, the inner state remains unchanged and the cycle continues. Fulfillment, on the other hand, is a completely different state of being. It is calm, steady, and complete. It does not look forward in anticipation. It rests in the present with quiet certainty. When you step into fulfillment, you are no longer trying to get something. You are acknowledging that it is already yours. This does not mean you physically see it yet, but internally you have accepted it as done. And this internal acceptance is what begins to shape your external world. To move into fulfillment, you must first become aware of how often you return to wanting. Notice the thoughts that say, I need this, or I don't have that yet. These thoughts may seem harmless, but they keep you anchored in lack. Instead of following them, gently shift your attention to the feeling of already having. Ask yourself, if this were already a part of my life, how would I feel right now? Then allow that feeling to arise, even if only slightly. It might be a sense of relief, gratitude, or quiet confidence. Whatever it is, let it settle within you without forcing it to be strong or dramatic. This is not about pretending or ignoring reality. It is about choosing which state you identify with. You can either identify as someone who is still waiting or as someone who has already received. The difference may seem subtle, but it changes everything. When you identify with fulfillment, your thoughts naturally align with that state. You stop questioning, doubting, and searching. You begin to think from a place of completeness rather than lack. And as your inner dialogue changes, so does your outer experience. Living in fulfillment also changes how you move through the world. You become less reactive, less desperate for outcomes, and more at ease with the present moment. You no longer feel the need to control every detail because, at a deeper level, you trust that what is yours is already secured. This sense of trust allows life to unfold more naturally. Opportunities arise without force, and solutions appear without struggle. It feels as though things are falling into place, not because you chased them, but because you aligned with them. There may be moments when old feelings of wanting return, especially if they have been a habit for a long time. When this happens, do not resist or judge yourself. Simply recognize it and return to fulfillment. Remind yourself that you are not here to want, you are here to accept. Each time you choose fulfillment over desire, you strengthen that state within you, making it more natural and more dominant. Over time, this becomes your default way of being. You no longer feel like you are trying to manifest something, you feel like you are living it, even before it fully appears. And as this inner state stabilizes, the outer world begins to reflect it with increasing clarity. What once felt distant becomes present, not because you chased it, but because you claimed it internally. So let desire serve its purpose, but do not live there. Step beyond it into fulfillment. Drop the need to want and embrace the feeling of already having. Because the moment you truly accept something as yours within, the world outside begins to rearrange itself to match that truth. In the end, everything comes down to this simple truth. You are not here to chase, to wait, or to hope. You are here to accept and to embody. What you continually remember, feel, and assume to be true within yourself becomes the reality you experience. When you stop living in desire and step into fulfillment, when you stop looking ahead and begin remembering it as already done, something shifts at the core of your being. You move from uncertainty to quiet certainty, from effort to ease, from longing to possession. And in that state, life can no longer deny you because you are no longer asking, you are claiming. So carry this with you live from the end, feel it as real, and accept it as yours now. Remain faithful to that inner truth, no matter what appears. And as you do, you will see your world transform, not by force, but as a natural reflection of who you have chosen to be.